Back to my channel. I just got off of work, as you can see, and I'm ready to go to sleep pretty soon as well. Start the next day tomorrow. In today's video, I want to talk about whether or not being a private security guard sucks, for lack of a better term. I know that a lot of people get offended if I say private security guard. If you are a public safety officer for a private enterprise, if you're a security officer, this video pertains to you. Guard includes security officers and public safety officers. Again, it's just for the algorithm. Sorry if I offended anybody, and occasionally when I say guard, I offend people, and that's a whole topic of another discussion. I hear it in the comments. Again, I'm not here to disrespect anybody. I'm just here to open up dialogue. Anyhow, let's talk about whether private security sucks. Should you continue working it? Talking to everybody, I kind of have a rough idea on what a lot of people do for a living. I've done surveys. I'm going to interject my own personal experiences in this discussion. I have about 5 years of private security experience. I don't want to say I've done it all, but all the different categories, maybe 50% of them, maybe 60, maybe 70%. The only thing that I haven't really done was executive protection. I never worked executive protection as a private security guard, ever. The only time really is, technically it's like a concert event when I worked tribal police, which is kind of like security. And when the then President Trump came to our town, I was perimeter. I saw the van. I saw his vehicle. I saw Secret Service. I saw the Black Hawk helicopter. It was quite a sight, but honestly, I was the perimeter of 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 the perimeter. Those who have been like executive protection, as in you're within hand's reach of your executive, you're probably laughing, thinking, oh, you're the perimeter of the perimeter of the perimeter guy. So again, I don't have that experience. Sorry. My first impressions of private security are not too good. I started working in bars and clubs, and there was a hothead security guard that I worked with on the team, and this guy there's just something wrong with him. And in that team, there was a deputy sheriff, an off-duty deputy sheriff, and some other guys. And one day, they were trying to kick this guy out, and I saw everything from start to beginning. He was mouthing off, and all of a sudden he got punched in the face. His head got stomped on. He got knocked out by the bouncers. And at the end of the day, it bothered me so much, just being 19 years old or 18, that I started having almost tears of anger in my eye. I just couldn't understand how a human being can do this to another human being. So one of the older guys that I work with, I approached him and I said, hey, I'm going to call the cops on this because this is not right. And he pulled me to the side and said, look, Sean, he's like, this is the 90s, man. This happens. I know it's an ugly sight. I know that your upbringing was different, but it just happens. It's wrong, but you got to just leave it the way it is. He shouldn't have came here drunk with an attitude. This is what happens, man. I know you're a good guy, and I know you want to get to law enforcement, and I know it's bothering you, but we'll just squash it right now. So I think I ended up not notifying law enforcement at that time. Further months down the road, again, this guy had an attitude problem, him and his whole group. So I really got a bad taste in private security. I thought I knew what was right. I had my own morals, and I was just conflicted with what other people were doing. All security in the beginning, one of the a brand new security guard started, and he kept mouthing off to the post commander, who was a rank of lieutenant, and he told him, dude, just shut up. if you keep running your mouth, I'll let you get away with what you want if you win in the fight. And I was thinking, like, what the hell? So they started fighting in the security office. The post commander grabbed this guy and threw him in this like trash container, and he got out full of blood, like on his arm, and then he shut up the longest. Like, it worked. His disrespect worked, and nobody complained to the EEOC. Nobody complained to higher ups. They just squashed the situation. The winner of the fight won. That's my impression. I work patrol, private security. This guy was training me, and there's some allegations that he had unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor, and that's why he could not become a police officer. My mentor at that time was a former LAPD officer who got fired. He said he got in too many shootings. Like, I don't know what that means, but I looked up to him. He really wanted me to be successful. Unfortunately, these are my mentors, right? And he told me, hey, this is a bad guy that's training you. So this guy would try to start fights at one of the properties. We patrolled an HOA, and he would get into people's faces like this close to kids who were like 17, 18 years old, and like challenge them to fights. And then again, I was just conflicted with what my job is as a private security guard. Like, am I here to observe and report? Am I here to start fights with people? So, his attitude kind of reflected on me. So one time, these like kids that were out of control, me like 18, 19, I just told them to shut the F up on the property, because that's how I was trained to interact with these kids. So what they ended up doing, 5 of them started surrounding me, and they're like, "What'd you say?" "No, you shut the F up. We're not moving." So I was thinking, well, I have a gun, right? I have a baton. Well, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to start batoning them? I'm going to start shooting them? Like, again, my morals were conflicted with what I was trained, right? And I was trained the wrong way. So that's my introduction to private security. It was a rather hasty introduction. One of the guys that was teaching me, he told me to hit somebody with a baton on their foot, like if they're transient, to slam them on the floor and to start hitting them like on the foot. Well, why the foot? Because if you hit them on the foot, it doesn't leave a mark. Like, that's the kind of training that I got. And again, I never grew up in an area that's considered like a rough area. I didn't realize at that time, like, it's still wrong any way that you look at it, but that's the beginning. I worked with another fellow in the clubs who told me he'd been through 4 shootings, and he said 3 of them are legal. Like, what the hell, 3 legal? So again, this guy had a habit of grabbing people by the throat and slamming them against the wall. And he would tell me on occasion that he would pat down drug dealers and steal all their money. He would steal all their money and he's able to do that. I'm not going to complain to the police, hey, this guy ripped me off with all my dope and took all my money. That doesn't happen. And the same guy, he would work executive protection, and in exchange for allowing women to enter like the band area, or like the non-public area, he would have sex with these people who are trying to come in and trying to like go backstage. That's his MO. That's the way that he operated. And at that time, again, I thought it was wrong, and then I thought, well, maybe it's right because he's doing it, and this guy's really experienced. Again, that is my experience, guys, in private security. It's like an awful experience, right? I guess and I have nothing to show you on camera. Also, guys, just listen to the audio. There's a lot of years of like boredom. Like, you're at a post, and a lot of times there's nothing to do. There's nobody going to be on the property. If they're on the property, they're probably trying to break into it. But I worked this warehouse. Nothing happened. If I wanted to I could do my homework the whole shift because nobody's going to enter the property. I tried to do that. I was working on my associate's degree in criminal justice. I couldn't because I just fall asleep if I did my homework. That was, again, that was the beginning. A lot of people think, oh, I can just do my homework. Well, if it's within policy and management's okay with it, then I suppose you could do your homework, but I just couldn't concentrate. Okay. There's a lot of periods of time where you don't have any backup. If you need backup, where are they? They're going to be like 3 or 4 properties away, sometimes a whole city away. I mean, I worked the patrol account. We had backup, and it was faster than the local police department. But there was a time when they told me, like, hey, man, you're calling too much. You're calling too much for backup. And then you're calling the police department too much. It looks bad on us. So I stopped involving myself in these situations. And again, I was in conflict with what I'm supposed to do and what I see. I'm supposed to observe and report, but they don't want me to report anymore, which again, there's a lot of sense that wasn't even made. When you're working patrol, sometimes these owners of the company, they want you to ghost properties, which means that you just bypass them or you spend less time. So I felt bad about ghosting properties. So what I would do is, if there's like a property that I guess needed to be ghosted, I would spend like a minute there instead of like 10 minutes. And then I'll just have like management deal with that situation because I'm not going to falsify any documents, right? But that was my time. There's a lot of periods of boredom, for sure. There's like no backup. And if you have backup, you might have somebody who doesn't even want to be there. They don't even want to be a security officer. This one guy told me that, hey, you know what? I'm just in it for the money, and there isn't a lot of money, but I'm going to be out of here pretty fast. I don't want to be a cop. You guys are all want to be cops. This guy would like sleep in his car the whole shift, wouldn't back me up. The biggest liar ever. His name was Kwame. He lived in Calabasas at that time. Not his girlfriend was in Calabasas, and he would always complain that his girlfriend, mother and father would complain that this guy's a low-life liar and everything else, but he was, that he was. So when Kwame was borrowing a rental car and then crashed, and then I saw him like in the little security lot area. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, oh man, don't say nothing. Like I'm trying to fix up the car. Here's some, I'm trying to tape it together and glue I don't know, it was an axle or some part, man. He just screwed up the whole car. And he returned it that way. But that's the kind of people I have to deal with. I dealt with a guy who was training me, and this guy had like rotting teeth. He would yell at me while he's training me. He told me to speed up in the golf cart. I told him, like, for what? So he put his foot on my foot, and I thought, this is kind of strange. I wasn't really assertive. I was just like 18, 19 at the time. And then I just snapped at him. And what I mean snapped is I just slammed the brakes, and I told him to get his effing foot or boot off of me, or we're going to have some problems. And actually, I didn't go ratting him out to a supervisor. I just told him that, and he left me alone. You work with a lot of people who are not professional. You work with some people who think they're cops. The same guy, he's probably listening to this because he's probably still in security. I got nothing but love for him. But he kept telling me, hey, I got a 45 caliber. It's the best gun ever. Anybody messes with me, they're going to get a piece of 45 caliber in their chest. That's all what he would talk about was this 45 caliber. Where's the love for private security work? It just wasn't there. Okay. You get a lot of people sleeping on the job. They're not backing you up. They're lying all the time. They lie so much that it makes you look bad. They want you to cover up for them. We had this thing called the DTEX wand where you would basically like swipe every section of the property There's different like checkpoints, and you basically show your client, I was here at a certain date or time, right? So we would do that, but then some people would want me to like swipe their stuff. Hey, you know what? Don't swipe a lunch break here. Like they would have you cover up for them, and that's the kind of people that you have. Okay, there's some of them. I'm not saying that they're better than others, but there's some that actually make it into law enforcement. They're still terrible private security guards, and then they go into law enforcement and they're still horrible or terrible. That's what you get That's what you get a lot. I will say that I did work hospital security. It was okay, right? It was extremely dangerous. My fear was hurting a patient, like using a technique that's not authorized. So, for example, there's something called nonviolent crisis intervention or nonviolent something like that. It already sounds bad, right? And basically, you look to see if your teammate or somebody else has a pin that's called it's like it's some crisis intervention pin, and then you say team, and then the other person says team, and then you grab their elbow, and then you pin them against the wall, and then your butt touches your partner's butt, and then you pin them against the wall. And they didn't tell you what to do if that person's combative from there on. So I got into a situation where obviously this butt-to-butt thing, this team thing that they used, it didn't work. This lady was trying to escape the hospital. You absolutely do not want anybody to escape the hospital. If you do that, the hospital can potentially lose funding. So she escapes. She tries to attack me. I get her in the arm bar. I get her on the floor. I have her pinned, right? All of a sudden, the nurse pushes me off the patient. Says, "What are you doing? You're gonna break your arm." And I said, "I know what I'm doing." Anyhow, that patient hit me, and then almost escaped. So that's the kind of crap you gotta deal with at the hospital. That my trainers that taught me this nonviolent crisis intervention technique, they were EMTs, there were nursing staff. There's one guy from the private security sector that was instructor, but that's your instructors? Like, what the hell? So that's the kind of training that I got at the hospital, training that is not effective. And my greatest fear was using a technique that's not authorized. That's my fear. It's not like the patients. It's not being able to use the proper technique that you need. You learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever it is that you're good at. You can't use that. You gotta use this non-violent crisis intervention technique. Okay. I've seen it all, guys. Hospitals. I've seen a lot of patients like groaning, full of pain, and then the nursing staff is like behind their little nursing counter, and then they're just like laughing about the person, like complaining about how painful, how much pain they're going through. It just bugged me so much that, again, I felt conflicted. And you're not supposed to be doing this, like just giving patients blankets without getting the caring nurse's permission. So you'd have patients like freezing to death, it seemed like. And yeah, obviously if they have a fever, they're not supposed to have blankets, but you know what? I would kind of play nurse or doctor, because I couldn't take it anymore. And I would just hand them the blanket without their permission. I just couldn't take it anymore that they're asking for help, they're pressing the buttons, and then sometimes the nursing staff would just disconnect their system. That's the kind of situations I had to deal with working at a hospital. We had the hospital director stealing equipment, stealing funds. The EMTs were stealing drugs and then selling them on the black market. That's the kind of stuff I had to put up with working hospital security. Now, let me say this. If you want to get into law enforcement, guys, gals, in private security, you got to finish your 2 years. Finish 2 years. I know it's tough, because you don't want to work somewhere because it's like it's bad management. Backup is crappy. Look at the long term. If it's safe enough for you to stay one day, stay another day. But finish. It's so important that you finish those 2 years because it shows stability. And if you want to move up in private security, especially supervision, those 2 years are solid. Now, if you're skipping from one employer to another, like 1 month here, 5 months here, a year here, it does not look good on paper with law enforcement. Law enforcement, however, doesn't realize that private security is like a revolving door. The attrition rate is pretty damn high. I managed a private security company where the attrition rate was 50%. 1 out of 2 people leave. Law enforcement does not understand that, guys. The same thing's going to happen to you that happened to me. When I was applying for the LA County Sheriff's Department, I got disqualified, and I know this because I had an inside source tell me that the reason why I was disqualified was because I had too many jobs, and they wanted me to just be stable with one employer for 1 year, and I could reapply, and I would pass backgrounds with no problem. I got disqualified for that, for having too many employers, because the background investigator, who probably had no experience in private security, didn't realize that it's a revolving door. The attrition rate is high. Supervision sucks. Your coworkers suck. Guys, it's 2 years. Just stay 2 years. All right, let me just go through the comments real quick. Oh, Mike is here. Mike is here. Yeah. I'm just saying that I'm excited because he's my moderator. Nicole Code Girl's here. She says, I love my job. Let's say homeless person sprays spit in your face when they talk. Ooh. Well, Nicole Code Girl, you're getting too close if they're spitting in your face. Getting too face. But I know what you're talking about. Some people are very animated when they talk. And they talk so much that they end up not like intentionally spitting in your face. It just it comes out of their mouth, right? Saliva, and it gets onto your mouth, your face. It's disgusting, right? I know what you're saying. Mr. Fusion, I know we talked, my brother. He says, well, yeah, it sucks if you work for Allied. I know, you got to hang in there. Hang in there, brother. Mr. Fusion is one of our members of our group called the Sergeant Special. Welcome. He says, some guys here say they former cops at my workplace, yet when something happens, they always scream on the radio for some reason. Look, if you are a former cop, and you're getting paid like minimum wage, there's a good chance that you left law enforcement for not very favorable reasons. That's all I gotta say. Drewby says mafia phone book to the ribs to displace the blow, less bruising. Yeah. You know what? I would entertain that conversation if we're in the 90s, but we can't do that. It's 2024. We can't do that. You're going to end up in prison. Someone else taking that advice is going to end up in prison. Mr. Fusion says there's specific way to speak on the radio to get your message across. No, it's just I need police out here, right? And I work some supervisors in security. They have the most condescending voice, where it's just like an arrogant tone, condescending. It just terrible, right? Like there's no radio etiquette sometimes. Mr. Fusion says, no details, no nothing, unless asked. Hang in there, man. Drew B says, oh yeah, that's a creepy dude. Nobody should think that's right. Yeah, report the problem next time, right? JP says, most security is just for optics. Mike from the Professor Security Journal disagrees. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that one. I mean, there's some posts where it's just for optics, and then there's other posts where it's hands-on. They want you to do something. T says, my first job, calling the police every little issue was how I was trained, and the police lose respect real quick when you rely on them for everything. Yep. I was that guy that called them for everything. I totally agree. Mr. Future says, I have backup, but it depends on who's the backup. Some of these guards swear by no hands on even when my life is in danger. You know what? All I could say on that is if they're not going to back you up, don't interject yourself in that situation. Observe and report, even on a hands-on security company. And I don't think that there's a lot of posts with Allied Universal that's hands-on. Observe and report, especially you got crappy backup. Ruby says, I hope you had a bad employer and it's not the norm. I had a lot of bad employers. I was PSD in the Marines. That stands for Personal Security Detail. And I definitely gotten fired because they're all effed up. Oh my goodness. Well, no wonder you have some brutal methods. Hit him in the ribs. You're a Marine, right? Professor Security Journalist asks what's being the norm. Incompetence, unfortunately, it's not the norm. There's a question if I'm doing overseas or states. I don't know who they're asking. JP says hospital had a lot more leeway for hands-on. Oh, yeah. Hey, look, if you're hospital security, unless Allied, and I'm not putting anybody from Allied Universal down. I'm not. Or Securitas, or the national security companies that are out there. I'm not putting them down. But you might not be hands-on, which makes the nurses really nervous. But when I worked security in the hospital, we were hands-on, like 100%, man. Full-blown drag-out fights. There was many times where I got scared. I got really scared. And my backup one day was a retired California Department of Corrections captain. He wasn't the tallest guy. He was older, like probably mid-60s, maybe even reaching 70s. And man, that guy was a tiger. He really was. I was losing, and he put this guy down fast. I don't know where that strength came, and I got scared of him. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, whoa, what the hell? Where did this come out of? JP says, Drew, I know what you mean. About 6 months ago, one of the properties we were working, kid came with a Glock switch, shot up the side of the apartment. What the hell, man? Jeez. T says, feel like after a year, you hit a wall in terms of learning new things and changing to another company with different sites or procedures makes more sense than staying at a site for an additional year. Yeah. Hey, those of you guys who work for like a large security company, I'm telling you, if you want to move up, stay solid 2 years. If you want to get to law enforcement, stay that 2 years. It looks good on paper. You don't have to do 2 years at the same site. If you work for Allied, you could probably switch to another property, or you work for a large security company, you could probably switch to another post that's more favorable to you. And again, it looks better on paper than skipping to different security companies. Mike says you need to hop around in security. I say no, but yeah, I mean, if you have no like intentions on going in law enforcement, I'd say yes. And I think I would even argue, like, to be a supervisor or manager, I don't think that they really care that you've been through 20 different security companies. But it is a background investigator's nightmare if you work for 20 different companies in the last 2 years, and you're going to be all the way at the bottom of the background. So just ask yourself, like, what's your end goal, right? Hey, Universal Security Training Solutions is here. He says AU, which is LA Universal, has some special police sites. I bet they are some of the few. Yep, they do have special police. Um, Mr. Fusion, he says, would you come work for Allied Sean for $50 an hour? Hey, you know what? So, um, Ryan from the University Security and Training Solution channel sent me an email in the morning, and in the city of Oakland, it pays like $52 an hour, which is about $102,000 a year. But you're working in Oakland, and you do need 7 years of military or law enforcement to get in. Absolutely not. Absolutely hell to the no. Would I want to work in Oakland for 50? I wouldn't work in Oakland for $100 an hour. And some of you are probably saying, wait a minute, Sean, I work in Oakland for like $20 an hour or $30 an hour. Yeah, but that's you. Like, I just wouldn't. Mike says, yup, that's why I say dip out. They'll BS you and game you to stay at the same thing. Okay, so T says Allied wouldn't let me change sites. Have to go to a different company or just stay at the same site, same exact site. Okay, thank you for explaining that. That we know, but it might just be a general rule at that work site or that location, that branch office. I don't know. I don't know. Ryan from University Security and Training Solutions says company is Triple Canopy. So Triple Canopy is Constellus, I think. So Blackwater turned into, I'm probably mixing them all up. Blackwater, after that terrible incident, I think they formed Triple Canopy and then Constellus, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing a company in between. But yeah, 105,000. Mr. Fuse says, I mean, cafeteria is already bad, so why not make it worse? Cafeteria. What are you talking about? All right, guys, so I'm out of here. I want to talk about, I want you guys to comment whatever you think are the disadvantages of working private security, maybe the advantages. I could come up with a whole discussion, an hour discussion on advantages. I think the advantages probably outweigh the disadvantages. All right, that's it, guys. Let's carry on the discussion in the regular comment section box. Take care.